Hi Trey, how you doing? All right, I've got your second iteration up here, and you are looking fantastic. Really good job, man. I mean, you're really showing some nice stuff here, and I think I'm really pleased that you're understanding everything I'm putting out there. Um, and you're a pleasure to work with. This is fantastic. I really I think so. I think you're doing a fantastic job. So please keep it up. A couple more weeks to go here, and actually another week or so to go and we're there. And I think that you can honestly sit back and say, wow, I've learned a lot. And I can sit back and say, wow, Trey has learned a lot. So really fantastic. That said, I'm going to go through here and I'm going to give you several comments. Now, some of them you might elect to apply. Some of them are more general comments just for your design knowledge edification, as it were. Okay, so let's jump over to the cover. Cover looks fantastic. I think this looks great. It just really brings out the image completely. So that's fantastic. Oh, I got to mention something before I get started on anything here. Is your pages are still set up at 8.5 by 11. Don't forget, these pages are half pages, so um, they're 5.5 width by 8.5 height. Okay, that's 11 by 8.5 folded, right? So if we take our 8.5 page, right, we fold it this way and then turn it this way, that becomes our booklet. So of course we see the 8.5 is the height and the width is 5.5, yielding a double spread of 11 by 8.5, 11 being the width. So I bring that up first because it's of relevant importance, because establishing the correct page sizes could feasibly entail, well, I shouldn't say could feasibly, for sure is going to entail some compositional changes. Things like the type, the size of the typeface, etc., the amount of text you're using. So please keep that in mind. The first thing I would do if I were you is to get in there and get this thing set up at the correct page sizes. Because you could theoretically run into some pretty severe issues down the line. Okay, so what do we have? Let's go ahead and take a look. Let's jump in here. So good. This looks fantastic. Really super inviting. This is a great title area. Really nice job there. One thing I would recommend is the crop. Right now, you've got his full T-shirt in, but the top of his head is being cropped out. So we can just go ahead and bring him down a little bit and reestablish your crop. This was really, really smart. The fact that his eyes are right across from the art of entertainment. As a matter of fact, he can even come down a little bit, but when you recompose. But I'd like to see his full image in that frame, and then try to preserve that wonderful leading line that brings the art of entertainment in the same horizontal plane as his eyes. That's fantastic. Okay, nice drop cap, looking good. Small caps, excellent. Um, Small caps and old style numerals, outstanding. Good typeset, looking really good. This is technically a widow. You want to edit that out. That line shouldn't be alone. It should be at least 2 lines on any given text. So you're going to have to do some recomposing there. A couple of things you could do is start bringing the text down a little bit. I'm not real sure if you have these 2 pages threaded together. But if you start moving your type down, it's going to bring this down in the composition as well at the end, which is fine because you've got some space there. One thing I would recommend is, okay, so that's a widow. So good job, nice space between. I'll get back to that recommendation in a second. This is excellent. Now there's no mistaking where the italicized phrase belongs to the following paragraph. Now, a little extra space there makes all the difference in the world, doesn't it? Okay, really, really beautiful, beautiful typesetting here. Images you might want to work on a little bit, because I think that some of your images are breaking the margin, breaking the grid right here. That image is creeping over into the gutter. So you could either crop this or do whatever you need to do to get this into a presentation where it falls into line with the grid. Conversely, right down here, you've got this baseline, but it doesn't extend to the next baseline. So your baseline grid is off on that spread. You want your elements, and it's going to be easy enough to do. All you would have to do in this particular case is crop this up a little bit, depending on where your margin sits on your other pages. See, your margins are a little bit uneven. Actually, they look pretty good here. Just make sure that your margins are even on each page. Definitely, that's really super important. So, and then establish your baseline and just make sure that you're extending to that baseline on each of your pages. And images are fine. That's fine. So really, really outstanding first spread. Really super welcoming. I think it's fantastic. Let's go to the next spread. Now, the next spread, you've kind of introduced a new um, element here. And I'm just going to tell you what professional designers are going to see here. And again, this is something that's completely up to you whether you want to change it or not. You have created a box to place behind the text to make the text more visible on the very busy background that we're seeing. Now, this points to a couple of issues. Mainly, it points to the fact that you're trying to force type into an image that might not be suitable for type. Not all images are suitable for type. A lot of amateur designers and students want to place boxes behind text. It's not a professional solution, therefore it might be looked down upon by some portfolio reviewers or when the time comes, some hiring professionals looking at your work. You've done a very tasteful job doing this. You haven't just placed a box. You've actually reduced the transparency, and you've also considered color. So I think that was smart. Nonetheless, I want you to at least consider. I'm okay with it in this class, but I just don't know. I feel like I need to let you know how designers might look at this when they're reviewing your portfolio. They might look at this and say, well, this is indicative of amateur design or student design decisions, placing things in boxes. Professional workflow would take a look at the background image and the series of background images and say, okay, if this can't support text, it's a sign telling me that I might consider a different background for the layout, something that's more able to hold text. I hope that makes sense. Like I said, I'm okay with it for the parameters of this class, being that we're looking at type and layout, but you definitely want to keep in mind that it is not considered a professional industry best standard practice. Okay. Paragraphs are looking good. This page is looking good. You got a lot of broken grid around here, though. Here's our center. So you've got the gutter. This spans the gutter. That's fine. That's fine. Actually, this is okay. You've got a broken area, a broken grid in one area, but I think you're okay there. Okay, next page. Same comments about the background box on the imagery. I mean, this page is really, really cluttered, and I'll tell you something. I'm using clutter which is actually not meant to be a discouraging term. It's actually an industry-specific term that refers to areas that have too much visually competing items. Okay, this page is not cluttered at all. This page is borderline, and this page has definitely got a lot of visual clutter, meaning that there's no use of negative space. I mean, every little area you've got something placed in that area. So you're not concentrating on negative space as a design element, rather you're using negative space as a leftover space. So keep that in mind as well. Something I'm noticing here is that the way that your type is composed here, you've got varying distance between where the type starts and where the image ends. That's got to be consistent. We can do that with paragraph styles. So for example, this type is much closer to this image than this type is. Conversely, down here, we've got this image is right up on this type is right up on that image, where this one and this one see, we've got three different areas where the type falls below the image, and in all three different areas is a different distance. Okay, so that points to inconsistent. That points to something that should be adjusted. This page again. There's a widow right there. That's a line that sits alone. There's another widow down here. And I'm using widow and orphan kind of interchangeably, meaning that it's either a line that sits off by itself or a word that sits off by itself. I don't see any words sitting off by themselves. Technically, we would call this an orphan. And technically this, where did it go? This would be a widow. Nonetheless, they've got to be adjusted out, definitely. So you want to do to work those out. Now, this page confuses me because, again, as I mentioned in the first critique, we've got this page right here. All right, so this page right here should probably have an introduction, seeing how this goes from copy to questions. So maybe you could give this another little headline area, not as prominent, of course, as the main headline, maybe something with the subhead, and identify this as a questions page. Then what I would do down here is say question page continued on, or question interview continued, or interview continued on page, and then add page, what is that? Page 9. And then up here on page 9, continued from page 3, or whatever page that was, right? That would make sense now, because of the way it is, it just doesn't make sense. Okay, this looks good, looking good, looking good. This, you probably want to go ahead and format that in APA, MLA, or Chicago formatting style. Simply placing the URL, it doesn't suffice proper formatting for your citations. So quick Google check, and I'm fine using Chicago, using MLA, using APA. It doesn't matter to me. But I would recommend that you go ahead and do a little research and try to find out how to format websites using APA, MLA, or Chicago style. Okay, other than that, you're looking great. So again, the main thing I would do, and when I say you're looking great, I'm really, really pleased, Trey. You're learning quickly and you're learning very well. Now, again, I just want to reiterate the importance of reformatting this work into the correct size. It's really, really important, because basically, in essence, all this work is for naught without the correct formatting of the page. Okay, I wish I could sit here and say it's no problem, just reformat your pages and you can copy and paste, but that's definitely not how it works. So think about that. Think about recomposing. You want to run something by me, have at it. We've got final submission Sunday, and then we've got another checkpoint next week, and then we turn in finals. So you know me, Trey. If you're working, I'm working. So if you want to post something, I'll be glad to provide additional comments. Thank you very much. Outstanding work so far. Thank you.